All right, hey guys. I want to show you how to start your introduction paragraphs for your essay, the strategies I use. So I'm going to take you through the process that I use to actually write. This is how I do it. There are three ways I like to stick to. There are a few different ways you can. I'll tell you the basics, and then I'll show you the easiest strategies to go to for writing these things. So hopefully these methods work for you. And if not, of course, I'm always available to you one-on-one. So let's get started. All right. Got all my goodies ready. Just a quick review of what we did when we planned our essay. I told you guys to start with your teacher's prompt. They tell you what to write and you analyze it and break it down. You turn that prompt into a thesis statement of your own. And later that thesis statement gives you your ideas for your topics, but we're not worried about any of that tonight or today or whenever you decide to write. Today, the only thing we need to work off of is this topic sentence. This goes directly into your introduction paragraph. It's always the last sentence of your intro, always, always. So we know that's what we have for our intro. Let's start there. In an introduction paragraph, there are two things. Sometimes I teach three. I wanted to stick with two for you guys. There's the hook and there's the thesis, right? In an introduction paragraph, we've got to have the hook and we've got to have a thesis. Now, what I sometimes teach is you can build a little background on your topic into it, and I'll be doing that in these examples we go over. And I also like to say that it also is kind of, there's a bit of a link between the hook and the thesis. So build a little background that links your hook to your thesis. But I'm not going to teach you that style today. You'll see it. We'll do it. We'll talk about it. But what I will teach you today is where your thesis goes. That's fine. And I'm going to show you three ways to hook your reader's attention, to make your topic interesting. The first I'll tell you is narrative, telling a bit of a short story just to make it interesting or relevant. And then there's using maybe a famous quote from a person who is reputable, someone who's an authority on the topic. And the last might be an interesting statistic, so a strong statistic. I'll show you all three methods today, okay? Narrative, telling a short story, using a quote, or using a statistic. And I'll show you how I go about doing all three of those, starting right now. You should have already set up your paper for MLA format from the previous video. I know enough about what I'm writing because I have my thesis written down. I cheated and did some work down here. Let's see. No, I already deleted it. Let me go grab that thesis real fast. All right, here he is. And here is my thesis statement. The thesis gets plugged into the last sentence of my introduction paragraph. So I'm going to pop them down there for now. I said, let's start writing here though. The first way you can hook your reader's attention is by telling a short story. That short story eventually has to link into my thesis statement here. So here's what I wrote earlier. I didn't want you to suffer through me writing the whole thing. And I'll show you what he looks like. So start here. The strategy I use is this. And let's pull our thesis up to where he belongs. A man walks sleepily through a dark house at night, flipping switches as he goes. The hallway, I have a typo. The hallway lights jump to life. Next, all six of his kitchen lights come to life in unison. And finally, the fridge breathes its cool breath on the man's face. It is refreshing. His smile widens as he reaches for his sandwich, the glorious illumination of the fridge light guiding his way to a midnight snack victory. He is happy, and perhaps ignorant. He doesn't think about the 8 light bulbs and the refrigerator compressor that made his journey possible. It's also likely that most of humanity doesn't consider all the energy we continue to consume as our world becomes more populated and thereby more polluted. Today's world faces growing energy demands, which creates greater potential for pollution that must be addressed. So there's an example of telling a short story and tying it into my thesis, and this would be a whole intro paragraph. Now, my thesis is always the last sentence. Lock this in your brains. The last sentence is always your thesis statement. So take your thesis that you wrote the other day and plug it in at this part. I don't want to see it anywhere else, okay? I also noticed I had a couple typos in here. What did I say? Oh, here's an important thing that I need to tell you guys. It's also that most of humanity doesn't consider all the energy we continue to consume. When you're writing an essay, unless your teacher tells you to, you never use first person language. That means you don't use I language or we language. You don't say I, me, mine. You don't say we, us, ours. So I need to change this. Humanity doesn't consider all the energy it continues to consume. So that was my first mistake. My second mistake, I think, was here. Today's world faces growing energy demands, which creates today's world energy demands. The demands create greater. Just a little typo there. There we go. So there's a narrative, okay? What did I do here? And see what I'm doing, guys? This is what you should be doing too. I have a blue line. That means I had a grammatical error. I need to reread it and make sure it makes sense. I'll read it out loud to myself. You should read your mistakes out loud yourself. Find it, fix it. Let's see. It's also likely that most of humanity doesn't consider all the energy it continues to consume. All right, super simple. There we go. That's one example. Narrative. All right.